My sister destroyed my life with a single lie. 5 years later, she was bleeding to death on an operating table. My parents were outside the trauma unit, praying that the chief surgeon would save their favorite daughter. Then the operating room doors opened. My mother looked up. She read the name stitched across the white coat. Her fingers dug so hard into my father's arm that he winced. For a moment, neither of them breathed, because the woman walking toward their dying daughter was the daughter they had erased 5 years earlier. Welcome to Silent Grudge Stories, where family secrets finally come to light and those everyone underestimated finally have a voice. Before I tell you what happened next, tell me in the comments what city you're watching from. I always love seeing how far these stories travel. And if you've ever wondered what happens when the person everyone underestimated finally stops staying silent, make sure to subscribe. Because this story is only beginning. 5 years earlier, there had always been 2 daughters in my family. Only one of us ever mattered. My name is Carrie Stone. I'm 31 years old. Growing up, I learned something long before I learned biology, chemistry, or anatomy. Attention wasn't earned in my house. It was assigned. And my older sister, Wendy, had received all of it before either of us could even speak. She was beautiful without trying, funny when people were watching, charming enough to make every adult believe she could never do anything wrong. Teachers adored her. Neighbors praised her. My parents built their entire world around her. Every accomplishment became a family celebration. Every mistake became someone else's fault. Meanwhile, I became the quiet daughter, the reliable one, the girl who disappeared behind textbooks because books were easier than competing for love that had already been promised to someone else. By middle school, I stopped expecting my parents to notice my achievements. When I won the regional science competition, Dad forgot to come because Wendy had dance rehearsal. When I received the highest grades in the district, Mom spent the dinner talking about Wendy's promotion at work. Little disappointments don't break you. They stack, one on top of another, until one day, you realize you've been carrying them your entire life. So I made myself a promise. If I couldn't become their favorite, I'd become impossible to ignore. Medicine wasn't just a career to me. It became my way out. While everyone else slept, I studied. When my classmates went to parties, I memorized anatomy. When vacations came, I volunteered at clinics just to learn something new. Years passed like that, quietly, until the afternoon, everything finally changed. The acceptance email arrived while I was helping Mom prepare dinner. I almost dropped my phone when I opened it. My hand started shaking before I even finished reading the first sentence. I had been accepted into one of the country's most competitive medical schools. For a few seconds, I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. I just stared at those words until they blurred behind tears. Mom looked over my shoulder. What happened? I handed her the phone. She read it once. Then again. Her mouth slowly opened. Thomas! Dad walked into the kitchen, carrying a box from the garage. What is it? She turned the screen toward him. Neither of them spoke. Dad read every line. Then he looked at me. Really looked at me. It was the first time in my entire life that I felt seen. He placed the box on the floor, walked toward me, rested one hand on my shoulder, and said something I had spent 23 years waiting to hear. I'm proud of you. Just 4 words. For most daughters, that sentence probably wouldn't change much. For me, it felt like someone had finally opened a locked door inside my chest. That night, my mother called relatives she hadn't spoken to in months. Dad told everyone at work. Even neighbors stopped by to congratulate me. For the first time, I wasn't Wendy's younger sister. I was Carrie, the future doctor, the daughter everyone suddenly believed in. Across the dinner table, I noticed Wendy smiling. Anyone else would have thought she looked happy. I almost believed it too. But then our eyes met. Her smile never reached them. There was something else there. Something cold. Something calculating. She barely touched her food that night. Instead, she kept asking questions. When do classes start? Who's going to be your roommate? What hospital are you hoping to match into? What professors are you most excited about? They sounded like innocent questions. They weren't. I answered every single one. because I still believed I had a sister. Over the next few weeks, she became strangely affectionate. She called me almost every day. She wanted updates, pictures, stories. She remembered names better than I did. I thought we were finally becoming close. I had no idea. I wasn't sharing my dreams. I was handing her every piece she needed to destroy them. Then life hit me from somewhere neither of us expected. A phone call, 3 minutes long. One diagnosis, stage 4. My best friend, Emma, the person who had stood beside me through every impossible exam, every sleepless night, every breakdown. Suddenly, none of my plans mattered anymore. And without realizing it, I had just given Wendy the opportunity she'd been waiting for all along. Emma's diagnosis changes everything. One afternoon, her oncologist pulls me aside after another round of tests. I don't need him to say much. His expression says enough before a single word leaves his mouth. The cancer is progressing faster than anyone expected. The next few weeks disappear inside hospital corridors. I study whenever Emma falls asleep. I review anatomy with a coffee growing cold beside me. I answer professors' emails between chemotherapy sessions. For the first time since medical school began, my life no longer follows a schedule. It follows lab results. Eventually, my academic advisor calls me into her office. She listens quietly as I explain everything. Then, she slides a packet of paperwork across her desk. "You don't have to choose between your future and your friend," she tells me. "We'll approve a temporary leave. Your place will still be here." I almost cry from relief. Every document is signed. Every approval is official. Every deadline is recorded. Nothing about my departure looks like someone giving up. I believe the truth will always be enough. I couldn't have been more wrong. While I spend my days helping Emma through treatments, Wendy starts telling a different story. At first, they're tiny comments. "Carrie's been acting strange. I don't think she's taking school seriously anymore. I heard she's thinking about dropping out. My parents don't question her. Why would they? She's never given them a reason to." A week later, the rumors become accusations. According to Wendy, I've quit medical school. According to Wendy, I'm embarrassed to admit I failed. According to Wendy, I'm wasting everyone's sacrifices because I've become obsessed with a man she conveniently refuses to name. Every version is slightly different, but they all end the same way. Carrie threw her future away. By the time I learn any of this, the damage is already done. Dad calls late one evening. His voice is colder than I've ever heard it. "I hope you're happy." I freeze. "What are you talking about? You embarrassed this family." "Dad, you lied to us." "I never." "You quit." "No, I took an approved leave. I can explain." "I don't want another excuse." The line goes dead. I stare at my phone for several seconds. Surely he'll call back. He doesn't. The next morning, I send copies of the university paperwork. No response. I email the official approval letter. Nothing. I leave a voicemail. Another. Then another. Silence. Mom finally answers 3 days later. For one impossible second, I think everything is about to be fixed. Instead, she speaks before I can. "Wendy already told us the truth." "There is no truth except the documents I sent. You forged them." The words hit harder than any scream could have. "You really believe I'd fake university records?" "I don't know what to believe anymore. You could ask the school. I don't need strangers telling me who my daughter is." Click. Another call ends. Another door closes. After that, something changes. Not all at once. Quietly, painfully, birthday messages stop arriving. Family dinners happen without invitations. Photos appear online. Everyone is smiling. Everyone is together. There's always one person missing. Me. Even relatives begin avoiding my calls. One aunt tells me she'll pray that I find my way back. A cousin asks if I'm really happier after throwing my career away. I stop correcting people. Every explanation sounds weaker than Wendy's confidence. Truth requires patience. Lies only require certainty. Meanwhile, Emma keeps fighting. Some days she laughs. Some days she can't even sit upright without help. On the hardest nights, She apologizes for ruining my future. I squeeze her hand every single time. You didn't take anything from me. But deep inside, I know someone else already has. One rainy evening, after another 12-hour shift beside Emma's hospital bed, I finally returned to my apartment. A thick envelope is waiting outside my door. No return address. Inside, every family photo that had ever included me. My face has been cut out of every single one. There isn't a note. There doesn't need to be. For the first time in my life, I stop wondering how to make my family love me. Instead, I begin wondering if I ever truly had won. Emma doesn't lose the fight overnight. She disappears a little more every week. Some mornings, she jokes with the nurses and insists on brushing her own hair. Other mornings, she doesn't have the strength to lift her head from the pillow. I never stop believing she'll recover. Not because the scans give me hope, because she deserves someone who refuses to give up. One evening, she wakes just long enough to whisper my name. Promise me something. I squeeze her hand. She smiles weakly. When this is over, go back. I know exactly what she means. Medical school. My dream. The future I had placed on hold. You'll come see me graduate. She doesn't answer. She only smiles. It's the last real conversation we ever have. The funeral is painfully small. Rain falls from a gray sky that seems determined to erase every sound. There are no dramatic speeches, no music, only silence. As everyone slowly walks away from the cemetery, I remain standing beside the fresh soil. For several minutes, I don't cry. I simply stare at her name carved into the stone. Then I make the only promise that still matters. I'll finish this for both of us. That promise becomes the center of my life. 3 weeks later, I return to medical school. Walking through those doors feels strangely familiar. At the same time, everything has changed. Some classmates hug me. Some don't know what to say. Others avoid asking where I've been. I prefer it that way. I don't want sympathy. I want another chance. So I disappear into work, classes, clinical rotations, night shifts, research, libraries that close after midnight, coffee that tastes more like survival than comfort. Days begin before sunrise and end long after the city falls asleep. Whenever exhaustion whispers that I've already done enough, I remember Emma. I keep going. Meanwhile, life outside the university keeps moving, whether I'm part of it or not. Months pass without a single call from my parents. Birthdays come and go. Christmas arrives. No invitation. No message. Not even a missed call. Eventually, I stop checking my phone, because disappointment becomes easier to carry when you stop expecting anything. Then one afternoon, while leaving the hospital after a 16-hour shift, I hear 2 visitors talking near the elevators. Their oldest daughter is incredible. The younger one? No. Wendy. I slow my pace without thinking. She's always taking care of her parents. They're so proud of her. Another woman laughs. They said they only have one daughter now. I keep walking. I don't look back. If they only knew how accurate that sentence had become. The years continue moving. Quietly, relentlessly. I complete medical school near the top of my class. Then comes residency. The hardest years of my life. 30-hour shifts. Emergency rooms overflowing. Trauma calls at 3 in the morning. Meals interrupted after 2 bites. Sometimes, not eating at all. People imagine surgeons become emotionally stronger. The truth is different. You simply learn how to keep functioning while your heart is breaking. Every patient teaches me something. Every life saved reminds me why I never gave up. Every life lost reminds me how fragile tomorrow really is. Little by little, the frightened student disappears. Someone stronger takes her place. Not colder, stronger. One evening, after another impossible shift, I meet someone while grabbing coffee from the hospital cafeteria 5 minutes before closing. His name is Alfred Brooks. He's finishing his fellowship in emergency medicine. He notices the anatomy flashcards sticking out of my bag. You study during dinner? I glance at the untouched sandwich in my hand. Sometimes dinner studies with me. He laughs. Not loudly. Just enough to make me laugh too. It's the first genuine laugh I've had in years. We never rush anything. Neither of us has time. Our relationship grows in hospital corridors, between trauma calls, shared vending machine coffee, and exhausted conversations after sunrise. For the first time since losing Emma, life feels capable of giving instead of only taking. Residency ends. Then another fellowship, another certification, another impossible exam. The promotions begin arriving one after another. Not because someone opens doors for me, because I refuse to stop knocking. One morning, the hospital CEO asks me to meet him before rounds. I assume I've made a mistake. Instead, he slides a folder across the desk. "We'd like you to lead the trauma surgery department." For several seconds, I simply stare at him. Chief of trauma surgery. At 31, younger than almost everyone else being considered, I sign the contract with hands that are far steadier than I feel. Walking out of his office, I think about Emma, about every overnight study session, about every holiday spent alone, about every call my parents never answered. None of it was wasted. Every painful mile had brought me here. I have no idea that on the other side of the city, someone from my past is about to walk into an intersection and change every one of our lives forever. The call comes at 6:17 on a Thursday morning. I'm halfway through reviewing trauma cases before rounds when my pager vibrates. Multi-vehicle collision. 3 critical patients. Trauma Team Alpha. The emergency department changes in seconds. Hallways fill with running footsteps. Monitors begin echoing through the entire floor. Stretchers arrive one after another. Blood. Broken glass. Paramedics shouting vital signs before the doors are even fully open. Nobody has time to think. We simply move. One patient needs an airway. Another has internal bleeding. A third arrives unconscious with severe chest trauma. Every second matters. My team already knows the rhythm. We've done this hundreds of times, but something feels different today. The atmosphere is heavier, more urgent. As I scrub in, one of the residents hands me another tablet. One more incoming. Female. Early 30s. Massive abdominal trauma. Possible liver rupture. Blood pressure collapsing. Estimated arrival. 30 seconds. I barely glance at the electronic chart. Not because I don't care. Because there isn't time. The ambulance doors burst open. The paramedics are still compressing blood bags against the patient's body. BP 70 over 40. Pulse 140. She's losing pressure. We've already transfused 2 units. I walk beside the stretcher while examining her injuries. Seatbelt damage. Abdominal swelling. Unstable pelvis. Possible splenic injury. Everything points toward catastrophic internal bleeding. We're taking her straight to or 2. Nobody argues. There isn't another option. As the nurses rush her towards surgery, I finally reach for the chart again. Just to verify allergies, medical history, emergency contacts, routine. Nothing more. Then, my eyes stop moving. Patient name. Wendy Stone. For one impossible second, the noise around me disappears. I read it again. Wendy Stone. Age. Date of birth. Everything matches. My sister. The woman who convinced my parents I had destroyed my own future. The woman I haven't seen in nearly 5 years. She's lying 10 feet away, covered in blood, fighting to stay alive. "Doctor!" A resident pulls me back. "We're losing her." Training takes over. Not emotion. Not memory. Training. I force myself to breathe. Notify anesthesia. Massive transfusion protocol. Call vascular surgery to stand by. The team scatters instantly. No one notices my hands tightening beneath the surgical gloves. No one knows whose life they're trying to save. Only I know. Outside, another ambulance arrives. Not with patients. With family. I don't see them. Not yet. But I hear later what happened. My parents rush through the emergency entrance before security can stop them. Dad's shirt is soaked from kneeling beside the wrecked car at the accident scene. Mom can barely speak. She keeps asking the same question. "Is my daughter alive?" A nurse explains that the trauma team is already operating. The chief surgeon is with her now. What are the chances? We won't know until surgery is over. My parents collapse into two plastic chairs outside the operating suite. For the first time in years, they're completely powerless. There's no money, no argument, no favorite child, only a closed operating room door, and the hope that whoever is behind it can do the impossible. They never imagine that the person holding Wendy's life in her hands is the daughter they abandoned. Inside her, too, the bleeding is worse than the scans suggested. Suction, more packs, pressure's falling, another monitor alarms. Anesthesiology calls out another blood pressure. Lower. The liver has multiple deep lacerations. The spleen is ruptured. Blood keeps filling the abdominal cavity faster than we can remove it. One wrong decision, one delayed clamp, one missed vessel, and she dies. The room becomes silent except for instructions. No unnecessary words, no hesitation. Every movement has purpose. My entire world narrows to a single objective. Stop the bleeding. Nothing else exists. Not childhood, not betrayal, not family, only the patient. That's what medicine teaches you. The person on the table is never your past, only your responsibility. Hours pass without anyone noticing. Outside, my parents continue waiting. Mom cries quietly into Dad's shoulder. Dad keeps staring at the operating room light. Every time someone walks through those doors, both of them stand. Every time, it's another nurse, another technician, another disappointment. Then, nearly 4 hours after the surgery begins, the bleeding finally stops. The monitors stabilize. The anesthesiologist looks at me. For the first time today, she's holding. Relief spreads across the room. Nobody celebrates. Not yet. We're not finished. But for the first time, I allow myself one slow breath. The hardest part is over. The next part is impossible. Because in a few minutes, I'll have to walk outside, look my parents in the eyes, and tell them that their favorite daughter survived. Because the daughter they erased refused to let her die. For hours. That's how long my parents sit outside operating room 2. For hours of silence. For hours of imagining the worst. Every time the doors swing open, my mother stands so quickly that her chair nearly tips over. Every time, it's someone else. A nurse carrying blood samples. A technician replacing equipment. An orderly pushing an empty stretcher. Never the surgeon. Never an answer. Time stops meaning anything. Inside, we're finally closing. The bleeding is under control. The liver repair holds. Her blood pressure has stabilized. One of the residents quietly exhales behind his mask. Another wipes sweat from his forehead. Nobody says it out loud, but everyone in the room knows how close we came to losing her. I remove my gloves. Blood stains the fingertips. Not mine. Wendy's. For a second, I stare at them. 5 years ago, she destroyed my life without ever raising her voice. Today, I'm the only reason hers continues. Life has a cruel sense of irony. The scrub nurse smiles. Beautiful repair, Dr. Stone. Another surgeon nods. I honestly didn't think she'd make it. Neither did I. Not when she arrived. Not with injuries like those. But that's over now. The operation is a success. The real battle is waiting outside those doors. Before leaving the operating suite, I stop at the sink. Cold water runs over my hands. I watch the blood disappear into the drain. It reminds me of something. Blood can be washed away. Some betrayals can't. The charge nurse approaches. The family keeps asking for updates. I know. They're terrified. I nod once. I'll speak to them. She turns toward the waiting room. Then pauses. They've been thanking everyone who walks past. I don't answer, because in a few seconds, they're about to thank the one person they never believed deserved anything. The automatic doors slide open. The waiting room falls silent. Every pair of eyes turns toward me. My parents stand immediately. My mother reaches me first. Doctor, her voice trembles. Please, tell me she's alive. Professional. Stay professional. I keep my expression calm. The surgery was successful. Neither of them moves. They simply stare, as if they don't quite understand the words. Then my mother breaks. She covers her face and begins sobbing. My father grabs the back of a chair just to stay standing. You saved her. He whispers the words more to himself than to me. Thank you. For the first time in years, he's thanking me, without realizing it. My mother reaches for my hands. They told us you never left the operating room. They said you wouldn't give up. Thank you. You saved my daughter. My daughter. Not your daughters. Just one. The familiar sting returns for only a moment. Then it disappears. Medicine teaches you something strange. You learn that pain doesn't vanish. It simply loses the ability to control your hands. I begin explaining Wendy's condition. She's stable, but the next 24 hours are critical. There may be complications. She'll remain in intensive care. They listen carefully, nodding after every sentence, completely focused, completely unaware. Then my father's eyes drift downward, toward the embroidered name on my white coat. His forehead wrinkles. He blinks once, then again. His lips part slightly. No words come out. He isn't looking at the title. He isn't looking at the hospital logo. He's staring at the surname. Stone. My mother notices his expression. What is it? He doesn't answer. Instead, he looks back at me. Really looks at me. Not as a surgeon. Not as a stranger. As if he's trying to remember a face buried beneath 5 years of anger. His breathing changes, almost imperceptibly. Then my mother follows his gaze. Her eyes stop on the name stitched above my heart. Dr. Carrie Stone. The color drains from her face. No. She takes one slow step backward. No. Another step. Her hand covers her mouth. Tears fill her eyes all over again. But these aren't tears of relief. They're tears of recognition. For several endless seconds, nobody speaks. The waiting room becomes impossibly quiet. My father finally manages to force out 2 words. Carrie! It's the first time he said my name in nearly 5 years. I don't smile. I don't cry. I don't ask why. I simply meet his eyes. Hello, Dad. The silence that follows feels heavier than the entire operation. Neither of them knows what to say. Neither of them knows where to look. Because the daughter they believed had thrown her life away has just walked out of an operating room after saving the child they never stopped choosing. And neither of them has any idea that this is only the beginning of the truth. Neither of my parents moves. The waiting room feels impossibly small. My father keeps staring at the name embroidered across my coat, as if looking long enough might somehow change the letters. It doesn't. I'm still standing in front of him. The daughter he decided no longer existed. My mother is the first to speak. Her voice barely rises above a whisper. Carrie! 5 years. That's how long it has been since she last said my name. I answer with a single nod. Nothing more. There isn't anything left to explain with emotions. Only facts. Dad finally finds his voice. You. He struggles to finish the sentence. You're really a surgeon? I don't answer immediately. Instead, I hand him Wendy's postoperative report. Liver reconstruction. Emergency splenectomy. Massive transfusion. She's alive. The next 24 hours are still critical. My words are calm. Clinical. Exactly the way I've spoken to hundreds of families before. Only this time, the family happens to be mine. Mom looks down at the report, then back at me. Her eyes fill with confusion. But, Wendy said, she can't finish. Because she already knows. Whatever Wendy told them, it doesn't fit the woman standing in front of them. Dad swallows hard. You left medical school. I took an approved leave. You disappeared. I tried to explain. You never called. For the first time since I walked out of the operating room, I looked directly into his eyes. I called 38 times. Silence. I sent emails. Silence. I mailed every document the university gave me. Silence. I begged both of you to speak with me. Neither of them interrupts. Because neither of them can. My mother slowly shakes her head. No. I never saw any documents. I never received. You received them. I don't raise my voice. I don't need to. They came back unopened. Dad immediately looks toward her. Then back at me. What do you mean, unopened? I still have every envelope. I kept them. Every return stamp. every rejection. I stopped sending them after the 7th package. No one says anything. The air itself feels heavier. A nurse walks past. She smiles politely. "Excellent work today, Dr. Stone." I thank her. She disappears down the hallway. My parents watch the exchange in silence. Another resident approaches. "I've already updated the chief medical officer. He wanted me to congratulate you personally. That liver repair was incredible." "Thank you." He leaves. My father watches him disappear. Only then does he ask the question that changes everything. "Chief!" I nod. "I lead trauma surgery." His shoulders slowly sink, not because of a title, because every compliment he hears destroys another piece of a story he accepted for 5 years. Mom suddenly grabs my wrist. Not forcefully, desperately. "If you never quit, why didn't you come home?" The question almost makes me laugh. Almost. I did. Both of them stare at me. The first Christmas. The second. The third. I stood outside the house. I watched everyone through the window. I wasn't allowed inside. Mom's expression crumbles. "No. You weren't there." "I was." Wendy opened the door. Memory flashes through my mind as clearly as if it happened yesterday. She stepped outside before anyone else could see me. She smiled, then quietly closed the door behind her. "They don't want you here." I remember believing her. I remember walking back to my car. I remember crying before I could even start the engine. Back in the present, I simply continue. I believe she was telling the truth. My father's breathing becomes uneven. "What else?" He asks the question without looking at me. "What else don't we know?" For a long moment, I say nothing, because once I answer, there is no way back. Finally, I reach into my work bag. Inside is a worn envelope. The paper is faded. The corners are bent from years of being carried everywhere. I hand it to him. He opens it slowly. Inside, every document from the university. Official approval for my leave. Letters from professors. Emails printed and dated. Hospital records proving Emma's diagnosis. Everything. Every single page. Exactly as it existed 5 years ago. His hands begin to shake. He reads one page, then another, then another. Each document destroys another lie. By the time he reaches the last page, his face has gone completely pale. He looks at my mother. She is already crying. Not quietly anymore. Completely broken. Dad whispers only one sentence. "Wendy knew." I don't answer. I don't need to. The evidence has already answered for me. At that exact moment, a nurse walks out of the ICU. "Family of Wendy Stone." All 3 of us turn at once. The patient is awake. My parents instinctively take one step toward the intensive care unit. Then they stop. For the first time in 5 years, neither of them looks at Wendy first. They both look at me, because the next conversation will decide whether they lost one daughter or both. The intensive care unit is quieter than the rest of the hospital. Machines replace conversations. Footsteps become whispers. Even grief seems afraid to speak too loudly. My parents follow the nurse through the secured doors. I stay behind for a moment. Part of me wants to walk away. Another part knows the story isn't finished. Not yet. When I enter the ICU a few minutes later, Wendy is awake. Barely. Her face is pale. Bandages disappear beneath the hospital blanket. The woman who once controlled every room she entered now struggles to lift her own head. Then she sees me. For a fraction of a second, something flashes across her face. Not gratitude, not relief. Fear. Real fear. She understands immediately. She knows I survived. She knows I became everything she tried to destroy. And worst of all, she knows our parents finally know it too. Mom rushes toward her bed. "Wendy!" Her voice trembles. "Tell me this isn't true." Wendy blinks slowly. "What?" "The university. The letters. Carrie, you told us she quit." Silence. You said she threw her life away." Wendy closes her eyes. "Mom, you lied to us." The room falls completely still. Even the heart monitor seems louder. Dad steps closer. His face is unlike anything I've ever seen. Not angry. Not yet. Devastated. I want you to look at me. Wendy doesn't. I said, look at me. She finally raises her eyes. His voice is calm. Far calmer than shouting would have been. Did Carrie ever quit medical school? A long pause. Then, no. Mom covers her mouth. Dad doesn't move. Did she forge those documents? No. Were her emails real? Yes. Were the university letters real? Yes. Every answer lands harder than the one before it. No dramatic confession. No screaming. Just one truth after another. Like bricks collapsing from a wall that had stood for 5 years. Dad asks the next question. The one neither of them truly wants answered. Why? Wendy doesn't respond immediately. She stares at the ceiling. Then laughs once. A dry, exhausted laugh. You finally noticed her. Nobody speaks. She continues anyway. Everything was always about me. Until she got into medical school. I watched Dad look at her the way he used to look at me. I watched Mom call every relative. For the first time, I wasn't enough. Tears began sliding down her face. I couldn't stand it. The words echo through the room. I couldn't stand watching everyone love her. Mom begins crying harder. I never stopped loving you. Wendy slowly shakes her head. No. You loved being proud of me. There's a difference. Even I hadn't expected that answer. For the first time, the truth isn't simple. Wendy isn't only cruel. She's broken. Broken enough to destroy another person's life rather than lose the attention she spent a lifetime receiving. It explains everything. It excuses nothing. Dad slowly sits in the chair beside the hospital bed. He suddenly looks 20 years older. I chose the easy daughter. His voice is barely audible. I never checked. I never asked. I just believed the story that required the least effort. He looks toward me, then immediately looks away again, ashamed. For the first time since I arrived, I finally speak. I didn't need either of you to believe me. All three of them look up. I only needed you to ask me. Silence. One conversation. One phone call. One question. Instead, you decided who I was without ever hearing my voice. Nobody argues, because nobody can. A nurse enters to adjust Wendy's medication. She notices the tension immediately. I'll come back. Before she can leave, Wendy stops her. No. She looks directly at me. I need to say this while she's here. Then she takes a slow breath. I knew Emma was dying. My heart stops. I knew why you left. The room freezes. I read every hospital update. I saw every letter. I hid them. Another silence. Longer this time. I wanted Mom and Dad to choose me. Her voice breaks completely. I just never thought they'd keep choosing me for 5 years. No one cries. No one speaks. There are moments when pain becomes too large for tears. This is one of them. I take one final look at my sister. Then I turn toward the door. Mom reaches for me. Carrie! I stop, but I don't turn around. We don't deserve another chance. Her words barely hold together. But please, don't let this be the last time we ever see you. For several seconds, I simply stand there. Then I answer without looking back. The surgery ended this morning. I rest my hand on the door. What happens to this family starts now. I walk out of the ICU. Behind me, for the first time in 5 years, the silence belongs to them. Not to me. I don't return to the ICU that night. There is nothing left for me to say. Not while emotions are still louder than truth. I finish my shift. I check on my other patients. I sign discharge papers. I review imaging studies. The hospital keeps moving. It always does, no matter whose heart has just been broken. For the next 3 days, I hear almost nothing about my family. Intentionally, I ask the nurses not to update me unless Wendy's condition changes medically. Professionally, she's still my patient. Personally, she stopped being my responsibility years ago. On the 4th morning, she's transferred out of intensive care. She's expected to recover. When I read the final report, I feel only one thing. Relief. Not because she lied. Not because she confessed. Because another life wasn't lost. That's always enough. That afternoon, I receive a message from hospital administration. My surgical team has been nominated for the hospital's annual Excellence in Trauma Care Award. Normally, I would smile. Instead, I think about Emma, about the promise I made beside her grave. Some victories arrive years later. A week passes before my parents ask to see me. Not at their house, not over the phone. They ask to meet in the hospital chapel. Neutral ground. I almost decline. Then I remember something a professor once told me. Closure isn't something other people give you. Sometimes, you give it to yourself. The chapel is empty except for the three of us. Mom stands as soon as I enter. She looks older than I remember. Dad doesn't even try to hide the guilt written across his face. For a long time, nobody speaks. Finally, Dad places a small cardboard box on the bench between us. I found these. Inside, every birthday card I ever mailed, every Christmas letter, every graduation invitation, every envelope Wendy had hidden before they could reach my parents. Most are still sealed. Mom starts crying before opening the first one. She reads every word, every birthday they missed, every attempt I made, every invitation they never knew existed. When she reaches the last envelope, she can't hold it anymore. She buries her face in her hands. We failed you. No excuses. No blaming Wendy. No pretending they didn't have a choice. Just 4 words. The first completely honest sentence I've heard from them in years. Dad looks at me. I've spent my whole life believing trust was automatic. It isn't. I understand that now. He slides a folded sheet of paper toward me. It's not an apology letter. It's a receipt. Months of family counseling appointments. Individual therapy. Support groups. He doesn't ask me to forgive him. He only says, we're trying to become people who deserve the daughter we lost. That sentence stays with me, because it's the first time they stop asking me to repair what they broke. They're finally trying to repair themselves. As for Wendy, recovery is slower than expected. Not physically, emotionally. She resigns from her job before returning from medical leave. She starts therapy on her own. Months later, she writes me a letter, not asking for forgiveness, not asking to meet, only acknowledging what she stole. I spent years believing your success erased mine. I know now that I erased myself. I read the letter once, then placed it inside a drawer. Some apologies deserve to be heard. Not all of them deserve an answer. Spring arrives. The hospital auditorium fills with staff, residents, and families for the annual awards ceremony. Our trauma team receives the Excellence in Trauma Care Award. When my name is called, the applause lasts longer than I expect. I walk onto the stage, accept the plaque, then look across the audience. Near the back, almost hidden beside the exit, my parents are standing. They aren't in the reserved family section. They didn't ask anyone to save them seats. They don't wave. They don't try to approach me afterward. They simply clap. Quietly. Respectfully. For the first time. Not because I'm the daughter they chose, but because I'm the woman I became without them. As everyone begins leaving, Alfred catches up beside me. You ready to go home? I smile. Home. That word used to mean a place where I begged to be loved. Now, it means something entirely different. It means peace. It means the people who stayed. It means the family I built instead of the one I lost. As we walk toward the parking garage, my phone vibrates. A message from Mom. No request. No pressure. Just one sentence. Thank you for saving your sister, even after we failed to save our relationship with you. I read it once, then locked my phone. Some wounds leave scars forever. But scars are different from open wounds. They remind you where you've been. They don't decide where you go next. I start the car. The city lights stretch ahead of us. For the first time in years, I'm not driving away from my past. I'm driving toward a future that finally belongs to me.